Okay, let's talk about brands. In a world where trends come and go in a flash, how do the great ones, stick around? How do they build something that actually lasts? Well, the answer might surprise you. It's not in some marketing textbook. We're going to look at branding through the lens of physics. Yeah, seriously. Thermodynamics. The same laws that tell us how energy and heat work all across the universe. Now, this isn't just a gimmick. It's a way to anchor your brand strategy in something that's, well, basically unbreakable. Something that the next big social media algorithm change can't touch. So what does this mean? It means we're flipping the script. Instead of just thinking about the psychology of why people buy things, we're going to look at a brand like it's a physical system. A system that has to follow certain, unchangeable laws. And that's exactly what we're about to dive into.
All right, so where do we start? It all begins with the first law. In physics, it's all about conservation. And in the world of branding, it's about conserving the very heart and soul of what makes your brand your brand.
So you probably remember this from science class, right? The first law of thermodynamics basically says that energy can't be created out of thin air and it doesn't just disappear. It only changes form. It might turn into heat or motion or something else entirely. But the total amount of energy, it always stays the same.
Okay, so how does this apply to branding? It's actually a really powerful idea. Think of your brand's core essence, its real purpose, its origin story, its values. That's its energy. And that core energy, it doesn't just expire. It just transforms. It shows up in different ways, on different platforms, for different audiences, but it's still there. I mean, just look at Nike. The core energy of Just Do It is the exact same today as it was decades ago. The commercials look different, sure. The platforms have totally changed. But that fundamental energy, it's been perfectly conserved. And what about brands that forget this? The ones that just chase the latest trend? They burn through their energy and just fade out.
And that really brings us to the big question you have to ask yourself. Whether you're building a brand from the ground up or you're in charge of a 100-year-old company, what is that core energy? What's that unshakable truth about your brand that you have to protect no matter what? Okay, so if the first law is all about stability, the second law? Well, the second law is a warning. It introduces this constant, natural force that is always working to pull your brand apart. Let's talk about decay. Physicists sometimes call this the cruelest law, and for a good reason. It's called entropy. And it basically says that without a constant input of energy, any organized system, anything, will naturally fall into chaos. A hot cup of coffee always gets cold. A clean room, left alone, always gets messy. It's just an inescapable force of nature. And here's the direct link. In the world of branding, entropy has a name: brand drift. It's that natural decay that starts to happen the second you stop putting in the energy to keep things coherent. It's not a failure of character, it's not a moral failing, it's just physics. And you've seen what this decay looks like in the real world, right? It's when you have inconsistent messaging from different departments, it's conflicting designs. One team is using an old logo, another team is using a new one. Pretty soon, your own team forgets why they're even doing what they're doing. And the result? Your customers are totally confused. That is brand entropy in action. This brings us to a really important quote. Consistency is not a vibe, it's a thermodynamic necessity. Think about that. Being consistent isn't just about having a good vibe or a nice aesthetic. It's a physical need. It takes constant, deliberate energy, doing brand audits, training your team, being absolutely ruthless about coherence. You are in a constant, never-ending fight against the drift. All right, so we've got conservation and we've got decay. Now, let's talk about the last two laws that really tie this whole system together. These create a complete physics-based playbook for your brand. Okay, two more laws to guide you. First up is what we can call the third law, and it's all about aiming for absolute clarity. Now, in physics, you can never actually reach absolute zero temperature. It's impossible. And in branding, you can never reach absolute perfection. So your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to constantly fight chaos and get as close to crystal clarity as you possibly can. Then we have the Zeroth Law, which is all about systemic alignment.
This law says that when all the parts of a system are in thermal equilibrium, everything's in harmony. For a brand, this means your internal team, your external marketing, and what your audience expects are all perfectly in sync. And that state of balance, that, my friends, is what we call authenticity.
So we've gone through the laws that govern your brand's energy. But what is that energy actually made of? What are the specific, timeless pieces that you have to conserve, protect from that chaotic entropy, and pull into alignment?
Here it is. This is the stuff. This is the energy we've been talking about. Your brand purpose, your core values, that critical founding story, the promise you make to your customers, your symbolic identity, the look and feel, the personality you project, and the archetype you embody. These are the 7 elements that have to last. They are the fixed points in a crazy, chaotic universe, and everything else has to revolve around them.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Building a powerful, lasting brand, it's not magic. It's physics, but with great storytelling wrapped around it. It's about really understanding these deep fundamental forces and then using them to tell a story that people can truly connect with. So in the end, it all comes down to a choice. Your brand is a system. It's constantly exchanging energy with the world around it. The real question is, are you going to manage that system consciously, with control, using these laws as your guide? Or are you just going to let entropy eat you alive? The choice really is yours.